I think baseball is still America's pastime, right? I think baseball still has a cultural imprint in Black communities. So I think it's not hard-pressed to push the narrative. I think we just have to do more storytelling around the impacts and the benefits of what baseball can offer and provide.
This is Hourglass, the podcast for United Way of King County in Seattle. Coming up, we're talking baseball with Bookie Gates of Baseball Beyond Borders, a Kent-based organization that provides baseball and softball access for communities of color. United Way of King County is proud to support Baseball Beyond Borders and its efforts to help student athletes of color connect their passion on the field with their academic futures off the field. We'll also discuss our free summer meals program for school-age youth and a local volunteer opportunity. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for tuning in. When Brooklyn Dodgers star Jackie Robinson broke Major League Baseball's color barrier in 1947, he created opportunities for scores of players of color, particularly African Americans who were previously denied from playing in the big leagues. By 1984, more than 18% of Major League Baseball players were Black, 12% were Latino, and they had given the game some of its brightest stars, from Hank Aaron to Roberto Clemente to Willie Mays to Rod Carew. Today, more than 40% of Major League Baseball players are of color, according to MLB.com. The league says this diversity is due in large part to the game's newfound globalization. However, the number of African American players in Major League Baseball has steadily declined since the mid-1980s, and today those players comprise about 6% of all players. MLB officials and other baseball analysts say several factors have contributed to the decline of African Americans in the sport, including the decrease in youth baseball programs in predominantly Black communities. Then there's competition from other sports such as basketball and football that have a faster track to the professional ranks and thus the greater insurance of a financial windfall. Today, there are many efforts to get African American players back into the game. They include Major League Baseball initiatives like Reviving Baseball in Inner Cities, or RBI, and the HBCU Swing Band Classic, an event featuring baseball teams from historically Black colleges and universities. And locally, that effort is being bolstered by Baseball Beyond Borders, a Kent-based organization that provides baseball and softball access for communities of color. Baseball Beyond Borders also helps students' academic outcomes while expanding their social boundaries. Baseball Beyond Borders was founded by Bookie Gates, a former Seattle baseball standout and son of a baseball coach. Bookie says that when he was a youngster, he sometimes had to leave his Central District neighborhood to play the sport he loves, and often that meant not being able to play in front of his family. But he says at least he was able to play elsewhere. Others in his community didn't have the same access, and many fell victim to the ills plaguing their neighborhoods. That prompted Bookie to provide Baseball Beyond Borders as a viable option. Today, Baseball Beyond Borders teaches life skills through sports and helps students, athletes, and their families navigate college access processes and prepare them for life after the 12th grade. Participants play in tournaments both locally and across the U.S. Baseball Beyond Borders originated in 2007 under the Chaffee's Inner City Baseball Program, which was hosted by Seattle University and the University of Washington. Baseball Beyond Borders became a full-fledged organization in 2014, and since then more than 2,000 student-athletes have enrolled in the program, with 98% completing it. Baseball Beyond Borders is also the Seattle area affiliate of Major League Baseball's RBI program and regularly serves as the host of the Nike RBI Tournament West Regional. This year's RBI West Regional Tournament will be held from July 25th through 27th, and games will take place at venues such as Auburn High School and Hogan Park at Russell Road in Kent. Baseball Beyond Borders is a member of the Black Community Building Collective, a group of 14 Black-led organizations that United Way of King County brought together to build relationships, share best practices, and implement strategies with United Way funding. Hourglass recently sat down with Bookie to talk Baseball Beyond Borders, the program's past, present, and future. Here's what he had to say.
the origins and how we began is very familiar to, I think, how a lot of nonprofits or even how people have found their way in understanding the passion that they have for purpose. And that deals with the 3 Ps. We call it pain, passion, and purpose. It was an experience that I had growing up in the Central District of Seattle, not having access to baseball outside of being 12 years of age. After 12 years of age, after Little League sunsets, what's next? And I think at the time in which I was growing up, select baseball was a thing. And at that point, I wanted to explore that, right? I knew baseball was the thing that I loved the most out of, basketball and football, the other sports that I played. I dabbled in soccer. I dabbled in a little bit of everything, right? Because it was just there for me. I was a kid that just loved to play. And that really took me into a place where, okay, I can go play, but there's no real teams around the community for me to have access to. So that then forced me to go play on the east side. But the pain that I experienced, and this is the pain or story at least I share and I continue to share, was my grandmother wasn't able to watch me play. She was my greatest advocate, always at the games. Obviously, grandmother, great-grandmother, Mr. Bell, we talk about Uncle Walt, like all these guys, Grandpa Walt, they were all there watching us play, sitting on the hill right there off 25th and Jefferson. There was a hill right there overlooking, I think, playfield number 3. And as they were watching me at Garfield, I can always look up and I can see them, right? Never missed a beat. But then once I got over there playing on the east side, I look out into those stands, but I didn't see grandmother. I didn't see grandpa. I didn't see the people that I cared about most, right? Mom would be there every now and then, right? Mom is always going to be a supportive emphasis, but then also kept looking out in them stands and I didn't see people that looked like me.
Right.
That was tough, right? It's like, I had nothing to relate to, even though the game of baseball is relatable, right? Because it shows no color.
Great.
But it was just like, man, how am I not seeing my folks? So then, that pain started to really exacerbate when I came back home. So after having a baseball game, I would come back into the Central District. I would go back to Garfield Playfield. And then as the years go by, I continue to see, the peers, right, who were far better than me, had more talent. They started to fall to the wayside, right? They started to have, the social determinants of health started to now overcome them. And, you started to see the criminal legal system get involved. You started to see substance abuse get, take precedence. And it's like, well, man, I was able to do this, but how come they didn't have the same opportunity? And that's when I think, at 16 years of age, Joe, you don't know what to do.
Exactly.
I'm still young. I'm still immature. I'm not thinking I'm going to go out here and try to save the world at 16, right? I'm still just focused on, my path and my career choices and what I'm looking to do. And to be honest in that, I knew I wanted to play professional baseball. Didn't know how I was going to get there. That was the goal, right? That's the dream. I just knew I had to play. And so my focus kind of continued to stay within that, and I didn't want to get caught. And I think you even had some of our folks, man, in the corners, people that, obviously I didn't condone what they were doing, but obviously they had to make a living for what they did. But they actually kept me from being there, right? That was a saving grace, right? They, as much as I wanted to hang out on the street corners or hang out with the folks that ain't, up to no good, if you want to call it that, I decided, man, or at least I didn't decide because I was trying to hang out with them. They looked at me and was like, nah, it's time for you to go home, right? You don't need to be around here. You got a brighter future for yourself. And it's like, that pain of hearing somebody protect you, but yet not want to protect themselves and continue to just throw away not to say that they threw away their lives, but I think they knew that this was the only way that I know how to go about my business.
Right.
And so that just hurt. And so I realized, after, experiencing some time in the minor leagues and obviously going through the college baseball ranks, I also started to see that less and less of us were playing the game.
Great.
And so that's what I wanted to make something. I wanted to do something about it. I wanted to make an impact. And that's how Baseball Beyond Borders started, by just saying, let's just open up a door and a pathway for student athletes to have access, particularly our Black and brown student athletes, to play this game and to experience it and to possibly use it as a vehicle to advance their life and academic outcomes.
When you talk to young people, how do they see baseball in relationship to all the other sports?
They don't see it as glorifying as football and basketball, right? I think you can just look at the appeal and the marketability of the two sports, right? Even soccer nowadays. I mean, even you look at how lacrosse and other emerging sports are beginning to kind of take precedent in our nation. But I think baseball is still America's pastime, right? I think baseball still has a cultural imprint in Black communities. So I think it's not hard pressed to push the narrative. I think we just have to do more storytelling around the impacts and the benefits of what baseball can offer and provide. I think, you do have to let them know there is a delayed gratification element when it comes to the game of baseball, just simply because of the pathway that you must take. But I think now with collegiate baseball and just NCAA itself, changing and the guards kind of change, with NIL deals that are there now, even for baseball, you would only get 11.7 total scholarships. So you would have to figure out, I got a roster size full of 35 or if not 38 student athletes. Well, who's going to get a piece of this pie?
Wow.
And so now that's when, most kids, and you would hear people talk about that, like college baseball can only give you partial scholarships. And that's true. I went to college baseball on about a 3/4 of a full scholarship. So it wasn't a lot, but it still allowed me to get through what I needed to get through, right? It was more than what I even expected to get. But I think, today's times, that's changing. Now, every kid will now have a full ride scholarship to play collegiate baseball, but also roster sizes have dropped to, I think, 34. So now with a total number of 34, you got to think, well, there's 6 other kids who no longer can make this roster. So now where are they going to go? And they were pretty elite, right, from a Division I Power 4 school. So now that just the trickle-down effect happens. And so now you're going to see more NAIA and JUCO schools come to the pros. You're going to see mid-majors now in college. So the conversation now is like, hey, there's so much parity. There will become more parity in college baseball simply because of now this opportunity. But not to mention, baseball is still one of the few outside of soccer where you can get drafted directly out of high school.
Right.
Basketball is kind of now shifted and changed. Football has never had the ability to do that because, you're just not physically gifted enough to be playing with some grown men in the game of football, just given the nature of it. And the skill, right? Mental skill that's required to be able to do that 16 games out of a full year. So I think, the conversations are now starting to shift around the possibilities and really how, it might be prudent for a student athlete to really consider that delayed gratification and look to explore baseball pathways because of the trajectory that you're able to get, right? It may take you 5 to 6 years to get to the big leagues, but there's still a pathway for you. And if you're not wanting to play within Major League Baseball, there's independent baseball, there's foreign leagues, right? You got the Mexican League, you got Japan. I mean, there's an infinite number of baseball opportunities. You can't say that about any other sport.
And of course, you're also talking about softball as well.
That's right.
When you go out there, what is your selling point? Where do you go to try to bring kids in this area, and how do you talk to them?
Yeah. So, we really don't, I can't say that we have a selling point other than it's really about, our community, the collective community.
Okay.
And I think obviously we're wanting to serve folks that are from communities. The relationships are already kind of established and built. I think a lot of the student athletes that we see today have either come by way of a proximity to a relationship that has started back in high school, right? I mean, that's because, a lot of our coaches come from the community.
Okay.
So they understand, they know, they come into contact with families and parents, and then kids just want to be a part of something. Joe, I think there's a differentiator, right? There's a distinction between the organization that Baseball Beyond Borders has been able to create versus other select entities that exist out there. And that is the sense of belonging, the sense of, community, what we're able to do day in and day out from a coaching staff to even the parent engagement. We're talking about, you're not going to find that anywhere else. And I know I'm saying that with a lot of confidence, but I see it, right? I witness it every time I go to the game, and I'm standing on one side of the field and I'm watching our student athletes participate, play, and then I'm watching our parents get after it and they connect, and you got the music playing, the dancing, the joys, regardless of what the outcome is. It doesn't matter, win or loss, right? These kids, these families, they're having a good time. I look across the way, it's about winning, right? And I challenge a lot of those families who sit across the way and put emphasis so much on winning that they're missing the point.
Right.
They're missing the opportunity for their kids to just engage and enjoy and just fall in love with the game that they play. Because when you start to put that pressure on a kid, it's not about love anymore. Now it becomes a business. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, baseball is a business as you get to that level.
To that level, yeah.
But at 12, 13, 14 years of age, you still don't know who you are.
Right. Right.
And I'll be quiet as kept. Some of these parents don't know who they are. Right. So now you're living vicariously through your kid, thinking that they're going to be this greatest thing since sliced bread. And it's not there yet. Now, can they get there? Absolutely. But that's what I love, man. It's about community. And so when we talk to them, when we talk to families, we talk about, what type of environment do you want to be in? Because if you're looking for a certain way or a certain thing, yes, we're going to teach your kid how to play the game. But we're also going to teach your kid how to be a human being, right? We're going to teach them. We're going to love on them. We're going to show them. We're going to give them dignity, right? We're going to, it's not even about giving them dignity. We're going to affirm their dignity. That's already there, right? Because we can't give nobody dignity. They already came into this world with it. Now we just have to affirm that. So those are the things that we really want to press and emphasize. And I think that's just the importance of why Baseball Bring Borders is really community oriented.
And you really have a very strong academic component as well for these young people. Talk about that.
Yeah, so Moving Beyond 12 is the academic component that we're really building and launching and really trying to focus and emphasize. I think right now, the focal point around that Moving Beyond 12 model is really the mentorship. Mm-hmm. It's really our ability to engage and pose those questions and to be present in that student athlete's life. It's in holding them accountable around making sure that they are accomplishing, what they need to accomplish within the classroom, or that they're exploring other pathways outside of baseball and not just solely looking at baseball as its only viable option to, for that meal ticket. That we often kind of look for, right? I know that was kind of a thing that we grew up in our generation where it was a sport or bust.
Right.
And that's what we don't want to do, right? Because I think we learned a lot of hard lessons when the mentality was sport or bust, because we see a lot of our peers right now no longer in sport, but it was a bust, right? And I think the bust didn't even give them an opportunity to explore even another pathway, right, to have success. And so we want to make sure that these student athletes are equipped and prepared for what life will bring to them after play is over.
What is your reach? Are you King County, King and Pearson, Snohomish, or how far is this?
So right now it's really concentrated in King. We are definitely exploring what Pierce County can offer. And I think when I say what Pierce County can offer, we do things with community, not for them. Mm-hmm. And so I think we got to make sure that we build the foundation of the baseball model or softball model in Tacoma, but we raise up indigenous folks from there, right? Those that are already kind of in the field doing the work that we can kind of wrap our arms around and support. Because, last thing we want to do is just go and supplant and try to put ourselves in a space where, we're not wanted. Mm-hmm. And is baseball and softball ready for the Pierce County region, right? And I think it is, because there is baseball and softball, mm-hmm. but we have a unique focus, and that is on the Black African-American experience. And so we want to make sure that we open that doors. Now, is our program open to everybody? Absolutely. But the emphasis and the focus is going to be on really exploring and promoting pathways for African-American student athletes.
Talk about your reconciliation tour and the work that you're doing in the Deep South.
Yeah, so we just came back from our fourth reconciliation tour camp. Again, this camp was very different and unique, just simply because we've lost one of our coaches, Joe Townsend, who passed away on April 29th, is no longer with us. He was a staple for this reconciliation tour camp, one that really edged and continued to push this opportunity. At the same time, we also had Dan Wilson, who was an advocate for this reconciliation tour, one of the pioneers of making this thing happen, who now has other duties.
Yeah.
And, as the skipper of the Mariners, I love it. We love it. Mm-hmm. We're excited about it. The folks in Jackson, they know about it, but they don't know enough about it, right? You keep trying to tell them. It's like, he's a skipper. So like, what's that mean? Who's the manager? Well, so we're educating, in Jackson, but Jackson feels like they're a part of it, right? I think, the Mariners might have got some new fans, right. By the way of South, right? Typically teams in Jackson will be Braves fans.
Exactly.
But, I think ultimately they love Dan Wilson, right? They love Andy Wilson. So we appreciate the work that he continues to do. And he does it from far. He was with us, on the phone when we were down there this week. But the rec tour is really about exposing youth in West Jackson, right, to baseball and softball. and just giving them what they need. So this year, right, we wanted to make sure that we continued along this collective community push, and we've invited our friends from New Orleans Urban Youth Academy. And so New Orleans Urban Youth Academy was able to kind of drive up. It's about a 2-hour drive to come to Jackson, and they took part in that camp. So that increased some of our capacity, but it also made a connection because, again, coming from Seattle, right, it's far-fetched, and it's not really feasible for a kid in Jackson to think, well, I can go and I can play baseball in Seattle, or I might be able to find my way up to the Northwest. But in turn, they can say, well, wait a minute. I just built a relationship, and I got now a connection point to New Orleans, which is only a hop, skip, and a jump away from where I'm at now. I might be able to continue to pursue, my career in this. And so that's what it's about. And I think we continue to build on that. Obviously, we love the fact that the Perkins Foundation, John and Vera Mae Perkins Foundation, is a big camp. They're a big partner in this camp, I should say. And so we're just continued to be thrilled. We were able to celebrate the 95th birthday of Dr. John Perkins, the civil rights leader and a minister of reconciliation, who is still there. He came to the camp both days, was sitting in a golf cart, just watching and enjoying and just loving everything that he got to see about this. And so we just want to continue to build on that legacy. And it's a legacy in which he started with the notion of the 3 R's, which is really about reconciliation, relocation, and redistribution. And so this, camp is kind of modeling those 3 R's. The organization based beyond borders is modeling those 3 R's, right? It's about reconciliation. It's right finding the understanding of how I can love my community, I can be present for them, how I can stand up, how I can, create that forgiveness for any ill will or wrongdoing that may have happened during that moment in which I have been raised, but then also relocating, right? Going to the people. So it's not about, telling everybody, hey, come play for Baseball Beyond Borders. No, Baseball Beyond Borders wants to come and join you in this effort. And then redistribution, the camp itself is an element of redistribution because it's all about time, talent. It's not always about kind of funding or money. It's just being present. And Joe, being down there every year, when I go down there, you think about kind of what's going to be new. It's a camp. So how can you reinvent the camp to make it that much more appealing and great for the student athlete experience? But it has so much more to do with just like what it does for me, right? What it does for my wife and what it does for our coaches who go down there, and just to be present, right? To just watch kids be kids, to watch kids just love the fact that they're learning and to ask questions, and that there's an element of faith that comes into play. And so being able to sit there and pray with them and to talk with them and just to do life, right? There's something about what we get in just the moments of doing life with each other. You can't, it's hard to describe because you got to be there. You got to be in West Jackson to experience this. But I tell you what, we always will be going there every year as long as we can. And I want to take, and if listeners are listening, if you want, I want to make sure you experience this because those kids will change your life. They will change your life. As much as we think we're coming down there changing their lives, they're doing something for us.
Since you started, and kind of segues to this, since you started 2014, from a numerical point of view, your impact, how many students have come through, graduation rates, and what have they gone on to do?
Yeah, so we're actually probably close to 2,500 student athletes coming through the program. Now, that's a variation of many of them playing with us over the course of a summer in which we call exploratory play, or those that may have just attended a camp or a clinic or a showcase or an opportunity to just kind of hang with us. And so, we had at the point in which the last time we checked, we had about a 98% graduation rate. Many of them are still having success. I think the one thing that EC would tell you, he's one of our VPs, and he's local, right? Local guy, coaches on the teams. He says, if the only thing we taught you was baseball, we failed you. And, I think that goes to show that we have a lot of student athletes. We haven't made the MLB yet, right? We haven't got a student athlete make the MLB just yet, but we do have some moving on in the college ranks. We had a high, possibly there'll be some draft picks coming up of student athletes that have experienced our program, that have come through, that started with us at the age of 13. And then as they progress, we were able to kind of place them where they went and moved on and played with some other select elite clubs to give them that additional exposure. And they wanted themselves, right? Again, I don't like to hold on to say, from an impact standpoint, we had a doing in getting that kid to the MLB, right? Really, it's that kid had it doing, right? The kid, that parent, they invested the time, they trained, they developed, they were able to put themselves in the right positions to then explore. We just had a hand in that because we got them early on and we nurtured them. We gave them the confidence. We built, what they need to do to pass them on to the next. That built the confidence, that gave them the skill, knowledge, and ability to then move on to the next, right? So we just became part of the harvest. We watered those seeds to be a part of that process. But outside of that, I think we have kids who are currently coaching, right? I mean, one of our greatest stories is Nelson Cooper. So when we talk about impact, we're talking about the return on investment. And Nelson actually talked to us about at one of our events. We had a fundraising breakfast, and we brought Nelson Cooper back, and his message was the return on investment. And here's kind of how, when I say that, Nelson Cooper started with us our first year, the first ever pitch thrown out by an organization. This was Chaffee Inner City at the time. We were up at Skyway Park, a park that was never utilized. King County, because it was there, we were able to kind of grab access to it. I talked to a council member, or at least county exec Ron Sims at the time, was like, yo, I want to make something happen with Skyway Park. So we got access to the field. We're up there playing teams from the east side. We're in this league, not winning any games, but we're out there teaching kids how to play the game. We're just being present, right? We're showing them what it's like. They're dealing with so much adversity, right? To be able to not even finish, games are only 7 innings at that age. We can barely get through 5, but we're still playing. We're showing up the next day. We're showing up whenever the next games are. We're playing in tournaments. But Nelson Cooper went on to continue to play. He developed himself, graduated from Ballard High School, went on to North Carolina Central, graduated magna cum laude out there, decided had a choice. He played some baseball as well with North Carolina Central, but he decided to, pursue the workforce. He was like, I can go to graduate school, or I can go, got this offer at PNC's corporate office. This is his story to tell, but I'm just giving you a quick summation of it. So he gets to PNC's corporate office. He then gets into Pittsburgh, and he's just looking and walking around, and he still loves baseball. So he's going around to see, where's the neighborhood kids at? Where's the baseball parks at? Where are the black kids playing baseball? Couldn't find them. Didn't see it. So he decided to do something unique. Create his own organization. Pittsburgh Hardball Academy stands to this day. Nelson Cooper has kind of created the model after Baseball Beyond Borders. He's doing far better than what I was able to take it. And that's the whole point, right? I mean, we want to see him have that success. And I'm actually taking pointers from him to try to figure out what we can do, right? So it's the student teaching the teacher. But that's what it's about, right? That's the life. That's what we want. That's the return on investment. Because now he's giving back. So eventually, 10, 15 years from now, you're going to see a kid from Pittsburgh Hardball Academy go out there and start its own organization to help. And it's not about starting your own organization. It's filling the gaps. It's filling a need, right? Whether it be you start your own organization or you just go out there and you are providing a service. So that's really what we're about, right? Correct. That's the impact that we really want to have, is seeing our student athletes return the favor.
2 more questions. Baseball Beyond Borders is a member of our Black Community Building Collective. Can you just talk about being a part of that collective?
Man, being a part of the Black Community Building Collective through United Way of King County, it has brought so much. It's refreshing. It's refreshing to be able to walk into spaces and to be able to have dialogue, to learn from other counterparts, right, that are in this field or in this work, to share stories, right, to understand kind of the challenges that we're faced with. Because I think what we don't see operationally, there's a lot of day-to-day things that I think we have to deal with as executives, as leaders within organizations. But to be able to troubleshoot, to have thought partners, to have people that understand the plight in which you're dealing with, those things you cannot ask for. And I think that's the beauty of being in that collective. I love, and I've grown up with a lot of them, right? I've known a lot of them from, as childhood friends, or at least we've seen each other in passing. So there's already relationships that are built. So it also gave us a chance to strengthen relationships. It created intentionality and being present with one another, and to be able to really just share your most vulnerable challenges.
And lastly, I know that you have the Nike RBI regional tournament coming up. And I just want to really give you a plug for that. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so the regional tournament that we're referring to is brought on by Major League Baseball. So the youth baseball and softball division, they offer 8 regional tournaments across the region. One of them being the world championships, or world regional, I should call it, which typically encompasses Puerto Rico, the Caribbean, Venezuela, and some other islands that tend to participate, and they can come and join. Then the rest happens in regions. So you have the West, the Southwest, the Southeast, the Midwest, the North, the Central, the Mid-Atlantic region, the Northeast region. And I may have missed one, but there's 8 in totality.
Mm-hmm.
So out of those 8 teams that are RBI affiliates, meaning Reviving Baseball in the Inner City, they become affiliated with Major League Baseball's programming. They then identify a team or 2 or 3, because you have 2 baseball teams, 1 softball team. There's the juniors division, 13 to 15, the seniors division, which is encompassing a 13-year-old to an 18-year-old, and then the softball division, which is 13 to 18. So you build your team of student athletes that have been participating in your program or from your surrounding region that has been engaged within your programming throughout the year, and you form your all-star team. And so that all-star team then goes and travels to that regional tournament destination. This happens to be in Seattle in 2025. We've been hosting it the last 3 years now, since 2023. So we're excited about this third run of hosting the West Regional Tournament. We should have a total of 19 teams, if not 20, that will represent all 3 divisions, baseball and softball, juniors, seniors, and then softball division. But it's more importantly, it's about really showcasing the talent, skills, and abilities of these student athletes who now have another platform to go and compete. And winners from the top winners from each division moves on, and they participate in the Nike RBI World Series in Vero Beach, Florida. So that'll take place at the Jackie Robinson Training Complex. That is the old Dodger Town, for those that aren't familiar with Vero Beach. So they've done some renovations and retrofits to it, but it's a beautiful space. We had the opportunity to take a team in 2021 down to the World Series. It was our junior division team. Lost in the quarterfinals that time. We went down there, but that was also the year that our first game, and this is a great story, Joe, our first game, and this is the reason why the regional tournament is so impactful. The first game we played at the World Series, I got a chance to show up to the field, and I looked across the diamond. And when I looked across the diamond, there was Nelson Cooper, the Pittsburgh Pirates, representing the Pittsburgh Pirates RBI program. And so that moment right there solidified everything that says, what we are doing is working, because that student that was the first person to throw out a pitch for our organization is now on the opposite end, and he's coaching, doing big things. So that's the whole reason the RBI Regional Tournament, not to say that's the reason it exists, but that's obviously the stories that come from participating in that regional tournament. So we're looking to have teams representing Hawaii, Alaska, the state of Washington, Oregon, Colorado, Arizona, and California. So we're looking forward to it. It's an exciting time. It'll all take place in South King County fields, primarily high school fields.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bookie Gates. Baseball Beyond Borders. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot, Joe. Appreciate it.
For more information about Baseball Beyond Borders, log on to baseballbeyond.org. You know what goes hand in hand with summertime? United Way of King County's Summer Meals Program, which provides free, nutritious meals to youth under 18 throughout King County. United Way is proud to partner with the City of Seattle, No Kid Hungry, Hunger Free Washington, and the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction to provide free summer meals and help ease the financial burdens on families this time of year. Free summer meals programs are not hard to find. They're at parks, schools, recreation centers, and other places in your community. For more information about the Free Summer Meals Program, log on to freesummermeals.org. Do you love food and providing nourishment to local communities? The University District Food Bank is looking for volunteers to help serve food to members of its community. If you have just a few hours a week to give, you can make an impact on people's lives. University District Food Bank has volunteer opportunities Monday through Saturday, with some shifts during evening hours. For more information, log on to udistrictfoodbank.org. gmail.com. At United Way of King County, we are working side by side with communities to build an equitable future for everyone. Hourglass United Way is a podcast that highlights how we and our partners spend time making a difference in our communities. Our work is made possible by the generous donations from people like you. Please send comments and suggestions about our podcast to hourglassunitedway@gmail.com. To learn more about our work or to support United Way, log on to uwkc.org. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for listening. Until next time.